Welcome, restoration professionals, to Restoration Minutes, your source for industry information and education. Be sure to like and rate us if you enjoy the content we provide.
All right, welcome in everybody. Today we got Jeff Moore, the president of RIA and also president of ATI, with us today, and we're going to talk a little bit about his background and where he sees the industry going, and some concerns that he may have, and just see where the conversation takes us. So, welcome in, Jeff. I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, I kind of want to start off. Your background is a little different than mine, but kind of in the way the same. I started out in sales, and I was working on my master's degree, and my boss at the time was like, "Well, wear your work clothes to work," and I thought I was coming in as a sales guy, and it was kind of shocking to me, and I hated it for like the first week or two, but ended up loving it. Before he would let me cut out into the world, he made me do everything. I had to start out sucking water. I had to learn how to clean a fire. I had to know how to pack out and document content, so on and so forth. And he said, "Now that you know how to do the job, I'll let you go talk to my clients." And I proceeded to do that for all my salespeople. And I think your parents made you start out kind of the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally the same story. So yeah, if the company was really small and literally starting, from organizing the warehouse to, sucking water out on mitigation jobs to estimating. Yeah, I really just started from the ground up. It's really the best way to learn the industry.
It really is. And it gave me an appreciation. For me, it did two things. I mean, it gave me appreciation for all the guys that were actually doing the work day in, day out, and all the way up until I left the industry, and moved over to the software world 6 months ago. I was not afraid to jump in and help my guys when we got busy. Especially during hurricanes and cat work, which we specialized in at Royal Plus. When you're all boots on the ground working 16, 18 hours a day, you got to be willing and also know what your guys are going through to appreciate how tired they are and to show them that empathy and that respect. So I love it when I see owners that, have actually done everything and built their company up from, a smaller company and actually been there and done that. They have a greater respect for the guys that are in the field. And I know that's definitely appreciated by everyone. Tell me a little bit about where ATI is and what your vision is for the company.
So where ATI is now, we've partnered with private equity back in 2020. It's been a little over 5 years. We've had obviously amazing success and growth through acquisition, but we haven't done any acquisitions in quite some time. It's really just trying to, I think, get back to basics, which is really just focusing in on the employee and the customer, and really expanding our residential book of business. So at the end of the day, 80% of the industry, 80% of the jobs are residential. And as a restorer, I should say all, but I would say most restorers start off in residential and most want to do more and more commercial. But at the end of the day, if it's an 80-20 market, you actually do, if you want to be the most well-balanced version of yourself, you want to do more residential. So we've lost focus or concentration. We do some TPA work. It's a very small percentage of our work. But the one thing I do like about TPA work is it is metric based. It holds you accountable. You have to check the boxes, play the game as per se. But to me, I think to be really successful in the industry, if you can build your business off the metrics in TPA and apply that to all jobs, regardless of whether they're TPA, you will be a better version of yourself. So we're just trying to operationalize really the business around the TPA metrics. And at the end of the day, there's only two things that matter. Are our employees happy and are our customers happy? Everything else will solve itself. Revenue, profitability, invoicing, collections. But at the core, we really need to take care of our staff and our customer and not get so consumed with all the other data points, because there's thousands of data points that you can track and get consumed by.
Oh, 100% agree. I consult with a lot of companies just because of my background as well. And the biggest complaint I hear a lot, is everybody wants to talk bad about TPAs. And I'm like, you got to take a step back. I mean, you got to have a good mix. You got to have a good mix, exactly what you're saying. Residential work, commercial work, and I think it's good to have some TPA. Then I think it's also important, obviously, you have your sales people out there, getting organic growth. And, the thing I try to explain to owners, is like, at least, with the TPA, that book of business is spoon fed to you. Yeah, you got to jump through a lot of hoops and everything, but you're being spoon fed. So you're not paying that sales guy get that work. You're not paying a sales commission off of that work. So it all works out with the metrics in the end, pretty close to each other. But we all obviously want our work to come direct. And I know I've seen that you guys have a wide away footprint, and I've definitely noticed, from people I know that work at some of the ATIs. I know a couple of the guys that are in the Florida branches at you guys, and some of the ones that were former DKI guys that you guys have acquired, and they all seem to be pretty happy. I think that's been great for you guys, and I really have noticed that you guys have stayed home. Yeah, you'll still travel for, large loss, but I've really respected the fact that you guys don't want to lose sight of your day-to-day customers. And I think that's what a lot of guys I've tried to explain to some of the owners I deal with. Don't chase a storm if you're home based. Feed your table day in and day out is going to suffer, Really appreciate that your model has worked that way. And even though I haven't talked to you in a while, I really use your model to kind of explain to people and try to turn people on to it, because I think that's what's important.
Yeah, anyone who's chasing storms, don't get me wrong, it's good, it's sexy, it's exciting, pays the bills, assuming you get paid. But it's great if you go chase a storm and do $1 million job and you're doing 4 million a year, you're really excited. But when you come back and realize that customer that was giving you $250,000 a year, and you've got 20% of your staff because of this one client, and you screwed the pooch when you want to chase that storm, you may never get that customer back. And over the next 20 years, was it worth it for that $1 million pop that's not repeatable, that you'll never get again? And, immediately after the storm, you'll probably say you're grateful you did it. But 2 years from now, I think you're going to say, man, I made a bad choice because I've lost a customer or two. And you got to take care of your customers at home. If you've got additional staff or you're slow, then yeah, absolutely go chase the storm, go after a big loss, but not to sacrifice your day-to-day business. That is the most important.
Yeah, or you end up in a year like this. You built your business around storm work, and there isn't one.
Yeah, and you get crushed. Yeah.
Oh yeah. My previous boss, me and him talked quite a bit, and we still stay in touch. His fear has always been this. Is the fact that because after he went in Katrina and he tried to go all in on commercial, then after Katrina there was 5.5, 6 years without a storm. After he. And so that's what made him, realize that, and to keep the staff employed every day, you've got to build and maintain your day-to-day business. So I'm glad you guys have taken that model. I've seen a lot of the ones, especially with private equity getting involved, that really have made the day-to-day model the more important because it's more consistent, and I try to tell some of the guys I deal with, follow the big guys. If these guys have made something successful and they have grown, then obviously there's a reason for that. So try to emulate them, become friends with them, talk to those guys, learn from them. That's what's great about RIA. I've been with RIA, I think going all the way back to like 2014, something like that. And I really recommend it to everybody all the time. Obviously, I'm not actively, part of it. I think I might be one day. I really endorse it because I love the camaraderie. It's contractors working and getting to know other contractors. Ed Cross, I've had the luxury of being able to hire him a couple of times and learning a lot from him. I love what he brings to the table and pushing for the rights of the contractor, and trying to make everything an even and playing field, So can you tell us a little bit about what the RRA is going in and what you guys are working on this year? What's been your motivation for the new year?
Disaster can happen in an instant, leaving you overwhelmed. But when the unexpected happens, ATI Restoration is ready. We do more than fix the damage. We restore lives. With over 35 years of experience and locations nationwide, we act fast, bringing care and expertise to rebuild what matters most. Rebuilding communities. Revitalizing businesses. Rekindling hope. And restoring your future. We are ATI Restoration.
So I'd say our big push, obviously AGA that Mark Springer created many years ago is continuing to evolve. But I'd say there's really two big initiatives that are changing. One, as I say, around government affairs. I'm talking about lobbying, I'm talking about bills, I'm talking about things that are going to impact our stores, whether it's the right to cancel contracts in your state, or things that are going to impact your business, and states, regulators getting involved, and scope, insurance commissioners. And so we've got a bill tracking software. We are looking at bills in all 50 states. I think we've killed about 10 or 12 bills so far. And
Nice.
we're out there, quite honestly, whether you're an RA member or not, like we're out there advocating on your behalf. And obviously, we can only do so much advocating based off our budget and who's a member. But obviously, we're looking at the states with the most membership, the most employees, most number of jobs. Obviously, those are the big states, the Californias, the Floridas, the Texas, New York, Carolinas, all of the big states with the population. We've got in our budget for 2026 to hire someone full time. So that's really exciting news for the RAA. And then I would say the other one is carrier task force. So we are inviting carriers, and this, again, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, this could be controversial, but the reality is whether you play with TPAs, whether you like working with insurance carriers or not, they're involved. They are reimbursing, whether they're paying you direct, whether they're paying the insured, they are involved in this process, whether you want to negotiate with them, whether you want to communicate with them or not. And the more we can get them at the dance, the more we can get them to talk and figure out what is and isn't acceptable, that's going to improve the communication gap. And I would say now, I've been doing this for 2.5 decades now, and it used to be so much simpler to communicate with an adjuster. And now between third-party consultants, you've got TPAs, you've got adjusters, you may have a field adjuster, an inside adjuster. You've got so many layers asking you questions. And and sometimes it's not even adversarial, but if you don't work with carriers, it comes off as adversarial. It'd be no different sending an email to someone and you didn't mean anything by it, but I misinterpreted it. And I think that you're being a jerk because you're simply questioning me on my bill. Like, hey, I worked my ass off. I worked 18 hours a day for the last 4 days. And you're going to have the audacity to send me a list of 35 questions on why I did what I did. Well, remember, if this person's sitting in a desk, maybe in Ohio, he's got an active pending list of 85 files, and he may or may not have looked at the photos. He may or may not have read the whole estimate, because that's what we do. Not everyone reads everything. Most people are going to read the first paragraph. Do they actually read the whole estimate? And we just tend to be very adversarial, I think, both on the carrier side and the contractor side. So we've invited some carriers to help us move the industry forward. And so we've had our first meeting. We've got multiple task force, but ultimately we've got to lessen the friction that we have amongst the carrier community and the contractors. Again, whether you're playing ball with carriers or not, I don't care if your MO is to sue the carrier or sue the insured once you get the job. The reality is anything that we can move that needle to settle the claim faster is a needle we want to move forward. And so I think those are really exciting initiatives for those in the system and those that aren't members. But there's only so much we can do. We work on a shoestring budget. It's based off membership. So the more people like you, Michael, sitting on the sideline means the less capacity we have to make a difference for all those cards out there.
Well, I'm a member now still.
Okay.
So, we're
There you go.
definitely out there. And I always have advocated for the RA once I first got into it, learned about it. And really, once I started seeing some motion and the education that comes from it. And I definitely agree with you. I think the frustration from contractors, is, and I really have built some good relationships with some consultants over the years. There are good players and bad players, as we all know, especially the third-party consultants. One of the things that really is frustrating for the contractor is exactly kind of what you're talking about. Is unless you're dealing with a TPA, everything is different on what they all want to look at. And then they change every year. They change their adjuster playbook, or they're using AI that hadn't really caught up to what, I'm submitting, and because wherever AI is doing all these great things, but then the bad side of AI is whoever builds that program, it may not be looking for information the correct way. I'm very much into tech, obviously now here that I'm with a technology company, but it is, every time someone comes up with a new tool to produce the report and the information, they're playing catch up on the carrier side to build a tool to review that. So it takes time off of the adjuster side. And then plus, like you said, the different layers, used to, I'll go ahead and say it, when I used to do a lot of USAA work years and years ago, I could pick, even though I got the work through Contractor Connection, I could still pick up the phone and then call USAA adjuster. Then all of a sudden I couldn't call the adjuster. Then all of a sudden, even if I tried to call the adjuster, I got my hand slapped by the TPA, and so now you got the TPA that reviews it, and then it goes to the adjuster. And then if you get exceeded into a $50,000 limit more on a lot of them, they consider that a residential large law. So then that's going to bring in another consultant like Ward Law or some of those type of guys, depending on what state you're in. How has, I've heard recently, and I'm sure, especially being in California, a little bit more, that the state is now requiring the insurance companies to pay for some of the claims that they've been denying as a result of the fires. Do you have a little bit more information on that? Because I've had a couple of guys ask me some questions about that.
I don't know specifically. Obviously, there's a lot of carriers out there, so I haven't heard of any regulation. I think the biggest issue and challenge has been with the state back insurer out there. So every state has a carrier that's typically state backed, and anytime you're being forced to get insured by the state, that's not their business. The state's not in the insurance industry, but when no one else will insure you because you're in a high risk, you're getting the worst coverage with nothing covered. You're paying through the roof for the coverage because you have no other option. So they are starting to pay for different things, but based off the way the policy is written, it's terrible. It's not great insurance. You get what you pay for, but again, it could be because you had a bad claims history. It could simply be where the location of your house and you didn't have a choice. But yeah, the coverage is not good on a state back plan, generally speaking.
Yeah, and I just wasn't sure if you had anything specific. Someone had mentioned to me that the state of California has passed something here in the past week in relation to the fires, this past year. And so I wasn't sure if you'd seen anything on that or not. I definitely have been through it. I used to live in the Florida Keys and obviously had, that I think at that time, Citizens Insurance and, storm damage, man. You might as well just do it yourself unless you got a total loss because it was very little coverage and horrible coverage when you're in one of those state-backed plans. I definitely get it.
Even then with total loss, it's California's it's a coverage thing. So even with the state-backed plan and the total loss, there's still a total lack of coverage, generally speaking, compared to your standard insurance carriers out there. So, and coverage limits, that's everyone in California, just the cost of, really since COVID, the materials have gone up through the roof. So unless your agent has done a very good job or you're in the industry to know what the costs are. The cost to build, you're talking some of these homes in the Palisades are going for $1,500, $2,000 a square foot. And I promise you, most of these homes were insured for less than $500 a foot because that's what they were going for 6-7 years ago. And if you didn't update it, is that on you as a homeowner? Is that on the agent? Is it on the carrier? I don't know whose responsibility that is, but ultimately, that's the coverage you got, and the going market today is just different.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I got lucky. Before I got into this industry, I used to run medical clinics in 2004, and we were living in Central Florida and had Charlie, Francis, and Jean. So I had to deal with 3 different storms worth of damage to my house. And at that time, I had all 3 floors affected with mold and everything else. I had a roof torn off of the turret on the 3rd floor of my house. And it was brutal, and the first adjuster came out and tried to offer me a check for $76,000. Fortunately,
in the fast-moving world of restoration, success isn't just about hard work. It's about having the right tools, connections, and support. That's where the Restoration Industry Association, RIA, comes in. The RIA is the leading international network of restoration professionals dedicated to helping you grow your business, enhance your expertise, and tackle industry challenges head-on. As a member, you'll gain access to exclusive networking opportunities, connecting with like-minded professionals, sharing insights, and gaining strategies that help your business thrive. Our International Restoration Convention and Industry Expo is the must-attend event of the year, where you'll discover the latest trends, cutting-edge technology, and expert insights to stay ahead of the competition.
RIA is ultimately a group of like-minded individuals that are looking for opportunities to drive change, betterment, advancement through education, through commitment and dedication. And RIA is ultimately a platform for independent restorers or restorers of any sort, as well vendors to just come together and operate as a unified group to determine what's next for our industry.
Join the RIA today and be part of the movement that's shaping the restoration industry. Visit restorationindustry.org and take your business further, because when restorers stand together, we all succeed.
I put my wife and me through college by flipping houses on the side. So at least I knew enough about construction that time to like, no, man, this is a historic home. There's no drywall in here. It's all slat and plaster, and hardwood floors that are 8,500 years old. No, and so, but I had to fight the battle. Fortunately, I was an educated homeowner. And so I tried that. I think that's given me a lot of empathy, in this industry, to know what homeowners and business owners are dealing with. And, but it's hard when you got someone that's an engineer or just, someone that may even work in a factory or anything like that has no construction knowledge at all or no industry knowledge in what we do, to understand that they are getting screwed by their insurance company, even not that it's on purpose sometimes it's just that these adjusters now that they send out have little to no building knowledge, and it's gotten to where it's a mess. And then you end up with change order after change order after change order once they actually get a contractor on site, and it just makes the whole issue frustrating. So that's one thing I loved about the industry, is that we get to educate people, whether, educating homeowners and business owners as we're starting to deal with them, how to go through the minutia. Even though we're not policy interpreters or anything like that, we are at least able to explain what it's really going to take to restore their property and make sure that they have the right information. So that's the biggest thing I've loved about the RIA over the years, is that it's really a good place to get information and education. What do you think is one of the best, certifications for someone to get that's an advanced certification beyond your basic WRT, ASD, and things like that? I know the RIA has started offering some good courses. What do you think is one of the best courses out there for someone to get that's more of an advanced type of certification?
So, we've partnered with IICRC now. So in order to get any of the RIA advanced designations, you do have to go through the litany of the IICRC designation. For me, it really comes down to your background. Are you doing construction? Are you doing mitigation? I would say that covers, a majority of there is some environmental, but and contents are still relatively small. So, for me, you got to go to the WRT track, the ASD track. If you're looking for something beyond a master in water, WLS and RAA is definitely the Cadillac in my opinion. And then obviously you have the CR. But I'd also say at the end of the day, I think one of the more important ones, it's quite honestly, I think it's overlooked a lot, but again, I don't want to put words where people think I'm labeling like industry standard, but there really are two estimating platforms that are generally used out there. And I'm not going to name names. It doesn't matter whether you use them or not, or you're doing your own accord. But if you're using a software to estimate your jobs, and you want to go out there and get all the IICRC and all the RIA designations, if you haven't trained yourself in the software, shame on you. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you right now, I've got a few people that are certified in the estimating platform. And just because you're certified doesn't mean you're the most educated construction professional out there. I would actually say some of my best construction guys and gals are not certified. And so it's a tool. It's like no different if I'm an accountant and I use Excel all the time, but I'm not a master person in Excel. But if I was a controller at ATI or any company, I'm going to want to go get certified in Excel. And so if you're using Xactimate or Cotality as an example on their product, their estimating platforms, and you've done all this other technical training, learn how to use the product that you use, because that's what's going to drive one, revenue, two, profitability. Yep. At the end of the day, the carriers are not looking to not pay for things, especially when they're in a platform they're accustomed to looking at. So the difference in a grade estimator, and I'll give you an example, like a hot water heater. I can go out there and detach a hot water heater, but in California, there's up to like 18 associated line items to detach and reset a water heater. So the difference between a good estimator and a great estimator is making sure, because you're going to end up doing all those other things. Whether you charge for them is a whole different story. So I think making sure you're educating yourself and where you're spending your time, and you spend more time honestly in estimating than you do in the technical science of water damage drying if you're estimating jobs and estimating construction. And I just don't think a lot of people spend or invest in themselves or their employees in the estimating platforms. And I think that's a big miss by the industry.
I 100% agree. Wasn't even thinking that, but I definitely 100% agree with that, because I would bring in guys that thought they were great estimators, and and then I would put them up against one of my top guys and say, "Okay, y'all both go estimate the same thing and then compare at the end." And that way we could use it as a teaching tool from the guy that is great, that I know has learned all that stuff. But the other thing that I was going to mention is OSHA. I have found that a lot of the owners I deal with, go out there and they get guys in the field and they're not following any of the shots and the health record stuff. They're not following PPE or basic safety things with ladder heights and things like that, and hard hats. And,
In a world where there are a lot of false promises, Helixco has delivered the most advanced time and material project management and billing platform available. Check them out today at helixco.io.
those are things that are obviously, that are involved in your business, and especially on the commercial time and material side, that's a huge thing. But the big thing is that I'm seeing people getting sued now by employees because of issues. And it's like, so I tell a lot of my guys, at a minimum, go get your OSHA 10 or your HAZWOPER 40. At least HAZWOPER 40 is kind of more industry related, but I've taken both of those classes, and I was brutal on myself back when I took them, and I took them both within a 6-month period. 85% of the information is exactly the same. I had to sit through classes for like almost all the same information, but that type of information is paramount. And one of the things I found shocking that, most of the owners and managers out there that don't even know that an N95 is actually a respirator. Your guys have got to be fit tested for that. You can't just hand them out to your employees and send them out in the field. They've got to be fit tested for a basic N95 in order for you to be covered. And so I was going to bring up OSHA, but definitely for profitability and obviously making sure that you're covering your bases. Knowing the estimating software is great. And, now that the, Cotality has come out with their, or bought what I've actually used in the previous version before they took over it, it had been years before I looked at it. And so I had to sit back down and relearn it again, because it is a little bit different. You cannot scope and exactimate. I'll say the names. You cannot scope and exactimate like you can in the other one, so, well, I think that, the only other questions I was going to really ask you, is like, besides that, and where I know we kind of gotten where RIA is right now, and a lot of the guys that'll be watching this is going to be really kind of interested in that. But I know you've kind of told me the vision of where y'all are going, but do y'all have like any like bold long-term 3 to 5 year goals of things that you'd like to achieve for your industry advocacy that you do?
Yeah, I think ultimately we want to tackle bills that are going to impede us. So I'll give you an example of one bill that we've been working on in California and how detrimental something like this could be in any state. So there's a bill in California. I grew up in California. The business is based there. And in California, there's I believe it's a 3-day right to rescind. So if you're a contractor in California, again, you got to take a really bad person that's going to do this, but technically, so if any restorer does a mitigation job today, you and I both know, again, let's assume a job's done in 3 days. Technically in California, I can go out, we can go do a mitigation job, and you legally have the right to cancel that contract as I'm pulling the equipment out and have no financial responsibility to pay us.
Wow.
That
No
is
financial responsibility even for work performed. That is wild.
you can literally cancel the contract. Now, I think that's happened to us once, but technically that is in place. And so because of the wildfires, there is some lobbying going on and there's some bills in place. And again, that right to rescind wasn't intended for the restoration industry. That was intended for the
Buying a car.
construction industry generally, but
Yeah.
technically it applies to us. And so these lobbyists aren't looking at all industries. So now they're trying to take 3 days to 5 days,
Oh my
or maybe it's 7 days. It's either 5 or 7 days. So, I mean, imagine how detrimental. Again, a construction job, no big deal, like totally understand it. But it's really for people that were chasing fires and doing fire chasing, but it's really intended for general construction around the wildfire. So imagine if that were in place around the whole country. If I was a plaintiff's attorney and my job is to sue people, guess what? You just did a job for me. I got reimbursed by my carrier. I'm not going to pay you. that is bad for the industry, whether you're an RIA member or not. And those are types of bills we have to shut down. And again, it's not from a lack of lobbyists or senators. They just don't understand the restoration industry. And they're
Exactly.
applying general contracting stuff, which again, there's a reason why they're doing it. There are plenty of examples of why this makes sense, but it's absolutely killer. And so sometimes we're just asking for a carve out. Like, yes, we agree on everything else, but any emergency situation where your house is burnt down or there's water standing,
Mhm.
like that can't apply because the job's going to be done before then. And then I'd say the other big goal, so we did apply. So when you look at our government, there are trades. So if you look at construction, there's contracting, there's mechanical, there's electrical, plumbing. They're very well defined trades. You
Yeah.
look at restoration, it is not a
Nope.
trade. It is not a
Nope.
trade anywhere. You go to like a
Carpet
NAICS
cleaning is
code.
about as close. Janitorial services, I think, is the closest GSA registration you can
So,
get for our
and if you look
industry.
at it, janitorial cleaning so much smaller than us. Carpet cleaning
Yep.
smaller than us. Plumbing is smaller than us. Roofing is like almost all trades. Obviously, contracting is not, but all of the sub trades that we work with, generally speaking, are smaller trades than us. And so, when it comes to a lot of things in the government, the reason we're not considered for some of these bills is we're not even recognized by our own government as a trade. And so, the RIA submitted for a NAICS code. We did that
Oh,
last year.
good.
We have not heard back. If we get this, this will be really exciting. It will
Yeah.
impact us. We may not get it. I would say the chances of getting it the first round are not very high, but that's going to make a huge impact because guess what happens? Because if you look at Mike, if you look at what a restorer charges or what's in any of these estimating platforms compared to a plumber or electrician, I mean, I don't need to answer that. You and I both know it's a fraction, right? It's because we're not a bona fide trade. So the beauty,
What?
if we get a NAICS code, we're going to be able to charge more money. Now, granted, we're going to have to pay more money because now we're an actual trade. It's going to be a certified trade. So ultimately, it's going to cost us. It's going to cost carriers more money to pay our bills. We're going to be able to pay our staff more money, but we're going to be recognized by the government and get additional benefits from that. So to me, I think that is a big thing.
I think
Um,
that's a
and
huge
I think
thing.
it's a huge thing. And I think ultimately, we just want to get more members. I mean, at the end of the day, I could do so many amazing things for this industry, but we're working on a budget based off of members. And so I look at the industry as, again, depending on who you talk to, there's anywhere from 15 to 25,000 restoration companies just in the US. We've got about 2,000 members. So we've got a fraction. Now, granted, we have some of the larger ones. So when you look at the revenue split, we probably have 35% of the market from revenue. But until we get more people playing ball with us, we can go do amazing things with the government. We can go talk to the carriers. If I could paint a picture of what I'd love to see in the next 10 years, I would love to see, and I'm not going to call carriers out by name, but I'd love to see one of the top three carriers want to change something in the way they do. And I don't care if this is TPA or non TPA. And I'll just make something up. Like, let's say I no longer want to charge for, well, I'll use an Xactimate line item. I don't want to pay contractors to do equipment setup and takedown. I don't think it's something I should pay for. It's in Xactimate, it's in Cotality, it's in Symbility. Yes, you can charge for it on other jobs, but I want to fight I'm not going to allow for it on TPA jobs and I'm not going to allow for it on non-TPA jobs. I imagine a future with our carrier task force to where these carriers are going to come to the RIA and say, hey, what do you think if we do X? Is this going to be well received or not? Doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're going to listen to us, but I think if we get enough members and we've got a big enough voice and we've got the right people leading the organization in 10 years, I think that's very doable. And I think whether you're a TPA contractor or not, is an example, if you're the largest carrier, you decide you don't want to pay for something, whether I'm in a program or not, that means they're fighting me on those line items that I'm accustomed to charging for, TPA or not. The more things I can get them to pay for and allow for, even as a non-TPA, that's less arguing. So as an example, if my
Absolutely.
average job's 10 grand and they only want to pay 3 grand, well, if I can raise $3,000 to $4,000, that's $1,000 less I have to argue in every job if that's my end or my business. And so I think there's a ton of momentum. There's a huge future. But at the end of the day, when you're representing 25% of an industry, it's still pretty small numbers. And until people actually jump on board, our membership's $299 the first year. It's not a big check. The great thing about the RAA is the collaboration. Our conference is April 28th to 30th. But at the end, they're just sitting on the sidelines. Again, the numbers aren't big, but it's more in we want to represent you, and we are representing you whether you're paying or not. But those fees do allow us to do really good things with both the carriers and loss. It can quite honestly cripple your business.
What do you think the big challenge is? I've always, I was actually asked to be on the membership committee a few years back, and I just had some personal things going on that I didn't think I could give it the time that it deserved. I may actually consider that again. But what do you think is the biggest challenge to getting the recognition and retaining and keep getting the membership? Because it's not the price, I don't think. So I wasn't sure if you had any ideas, or if you guys have had any discussions down that, or if it's just name recognition.
I think there's really two things. So I think if you look at current members, we are known as being top heavy. When I say top heavy, the owners that are members know about RIA. Their employees don't all know what we're doing. And so sometimes it's the owner is not putting in their membership or their employees. It's a company membership. So if you don't update your profile and put all your employees in there, we tend to be very top focused. Those coming to conference tend to be owners, general managers, guys and gals that are effectively in a high level leadership position. So we've got to get recognition amongst our own members, all the way down to the guys and gals sucking water today, going on the next flood. So I think that's the first thing we have to change. I think the second one is branding and awareness. People still don't know who we are. Not everyone's on social. Even then, doesn't mean you're following us. The carriers don't know who we are. Quite honestly, I'd say most of them have never heard of the RIA. Quite honestly, most of the TPAs 5 years ago had never heard of us. I've had 2 conversations with the head of claims, 2 of the 5 largest carriers. They've never heard of RIA. No clue who we are. Didn't know what we represent. And I would say it's a branding and awareness thing. So if my employees that work for me as RIA president don't all know what the RIA is doing, how can I expect the restorer down the street that's been in business a year or doing $400,000 a year to know or care? Quite honestly, they may say, well, why do I want to spend $299? Because we're talking to the estimating platforms. We're talking to these bills that can cripple your business. There's a lot of reasons you want to, and quite honestly, Mike, I think the best thing we've ever done is our white papers. You talked earlier about how TPAs are brutal. Sorry, the TPCs. And we've got some white papers that are incredible. And there's many owners that are members that don't even know they exist. And we spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars developing those to give you ammunition. So it's using our information from the RIA instead of your information. Are you coming across as an a-hole, or are you not willing to negotiate with me? Use the RIA's white papers. This is coming from our industry. I should not be giving you this. I can charge for this, and you make it not about you and your business, and you make it more about the industry at large.
No, 100%. In fact, I'm in the process of writing a book right now, and I was actually going to be reaching out to RIA because I'll reference not like almost as a source material, but then also are telling people to join RIA because of this purpose. I've been doing large loss and commercial loss for, I guess, 18 years and 19 years this year. And I really changed my game once RIA started producing the white papers. It really educated me on, this is what's the norm. This is the industry standard. So don't tell me what's usually customary. Here's the white paper, and so the white papers and a lot of Ed Cross's books, I've read almost every one of them, have really, really done great. So I educate a lot of people and refer them definitely back to RIA because I think it's one of the best sources out there. Well, have you guys thought about not to become like a union per se, but to maybe come up with a membership level that's for the average technician, for them to actually kind of get involved, even if it's like $50 or $100 a year or something like that. That way, maybe you can kind of help raise the awareness, and get more involvement. And then maybe they could push some of these owners to get more involved. If y'all considered anything like that as a different respect of, kind of like, or especially since you're partnering with the ICRC now, maybe try to partner with them. Maybe it's just my marketing brain going crazy. Say, hey, can you add give it an option, $50 for them to be an independent, member of RIA or something like that?
So the beauty of our membership is it's already included. So if I'm an owner, all of my employees get access to all of the materials. So we are working on some training that we're developing. We've got a memorandum of understanding with the IICRC. So we are working with them to create kind of like a future track for the industry that goes beyond IICRC, RIA, and probably at different associations. I think the leverage is it's not an individual membership, it's a company membership. And so
Yeah, no,
making
it
sure all
is,
your
but it's still kind of like a top-down thing. So I was just thinking maybe, if you went out and had some other, even if it's like an associated membership type of thing for individuals that we can market to the technicians and to the office staff or estimators, so on and so forth. And then that way they could say, hey, boss man, hey, we're all part of this RIA thing. You need to consider it, just as a bottom up type of thing. Just got my brain spinning. That's all. Well, Jeff, I definitely appreciate your time today. I know it's valuable time. You're busy because you're so involved in so many things, but I definitely appreciate you slotting out a little bit of time to talk to us today.
appreciate the time. And just a reminder, the 2026 conference for RIA is in Savannah, April 27th until the 29th. And then the 2027 one is actually going to be in Phoenix, in my hometown.
Okay, good.
And then if there's anyone listening, I don't know when this goes live, but
It'll be
there
probably
is
first of next week. First of next week will go
person next
live.
week. So next week, for anyone that may listen to this right when it comes out on
Thomasville.
Wednesday, November 12th, that is, I think it's next Wednesday, or it's a week from today. So yeah, next Wednesday at Thomasville Restoration. It's up in Baltimore. It's actually going to be held at one of the casinos. We're going to be doing a tour. I believe it's the most attended RIA regional event. Last I heard, they had 150 or 60 attendees coming.
Nice.
I think we had maximum capacity of 200. And so I really love those events. Obviously, it's not the big conference. You don't have all the exhibiting. It's truly education, but you actually get to talk to the people, whether it's a leader in RIA, it's someone who's really high up in the industry. You get to rub elbows with a bunch of your peers. Typically it's like 60% local people that can drive and then 40% flying in from all over the country. So if you haven't done one of those, I highly recommend you consider it, especially in the region.
Yep, absolutely. I'll be there. And I think we're playing Top Golf that night, if I recall. And so yeah, we're looking forward to it. I've been telling people about it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. This will be the first regional meeting I've gone to in a few years. So I'm looking forward to it. I think the regionals have actually started picking up some steam for you guys. I think that's great. That's really because it sometimes it's the timing, conference season gets crazy, sometimes it's the budgets, and things like that. These regionals really make it a lot easier because y'all just didn't you guys do another one not too long ago?
We just had one like 2 weeks ago in Memphis.
like
and yeah,
yep.
The reality is your average restorer is not doing a ton of revenue. And the reality is as a restorer, if I'm an owner doing $1 million a year, quite honestly, just the logistics, forget the costs. Taking me out of my business for a week, that's not practical. But if it's in my backyard, I can give up a day because it's not always about the money, the flight, the hotel. It's really more the time.
Yep.
That's the bigger impact. And these conferences, if it's on one coast and you're on the other, you're talking about a whole week. And that's really tough as an individual owner who's running the business, maybe estimating the jobs and looking at them and coordinating them. And that's not always practical. And again, our goal is to get in front of all of the restorers. And so if we can get more events in your backyard, we hope to get more engagement locally in all of the markets. It's a big country, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great thing. And like I said, we'll be there next week. So anyone that's listening, I'll probably get this out on Monday if it's still not too late to register.
Never
And
too late.
definitely like to see you guys there. All right.
That's great. Appreciate it, Mike.